Friday Night Fever in Anacortes, Washington. A showdown between the Anacortes High Seahawks and the Linden Lions brings fans to their feet.
Yeah!
Among them, Brandon Schultz, an honors student during his days at Anacortes High, who spent many of his nights out on this field.
I love football. To this day, I still love it. I still have dreams that I'm playing.
Brandon made varsity his sophomore year, playing right guard and left end.
I go back to California on Wednesday.
But now, he's not just another former star recalling past glory. In fact, he has no memory of the event 7 years ago that ended his football career and changed his life. It all started just after his 16th birthday. Following a hard tackle, Brandon suffered a mild concussion, forcing him to sit for the rest of the game.
He really wasn't down on the ground or anything. He was just shook up, got his bell rung, as we say.
Brandon wrote a letter to his father that week complaining of headaches, and he skipped several practices. But no one told his parents to get him medically evaluated. It just didn't seem that serious.
He got up Monday morning, went to school, said, you know, I feel fine, I'm going to play.
His family videotaped the action that night from the stands. After a tackle at the end of the half, number 61 seemed fine. But during the next few minutes, something happened.
I looked up, and there was Brandon just laying on the field flat. And it was kind of surreal as I look back. I didn't really panic. I just went, oh, I guess I better get down there.
Lane Phelan approached her son, who it turns out was unconscious. The coaches called for an ambulance. Brandon was in a coma for 5 days and endured 4 operations on his brain and skull. And yet the fateful hit at the time seemed like so many others. So why did a seemingly routine tackle have such devastating results? Well, doctors concluded Brandon had second impact syndrome. And what that means is that Brandon's brain had been injured and left critically vulnerable by the hard hit a week earlier. It hadn't had time to recover, so even a slight blow could trigger swelling and bleeding, squeezing Brandon's brain within his skull, causing permanent damage.
It was as if his brain was exploding.
Dr. Stephen Rice, an expert on sports-related head injuries, says a second hit, even a mild one like Brandon's, can set off a dangerous chain reaction in the brain.
When his brain swelled, it was as if he had a sponge that absorbed large amounts of fluid and made its size much, much larger than it normally would. And of course, being confined in the hard skull, it had no place to go but to put pressure on the walls of the skull and on itself.
Brandon is now partially blind. His right arm and leg don't always do what he wants. It's unlikely he'll ever be able to hold down a job or live alone. So many things that once came easily are hard.
That is very frustrating. You know, especially when something that I know I could do before just fine.
I think there's very few similarities. It's hard to come up with any similarities. He really is a total different person.
A legal settlement with the Anacortes School District funds Brandon's ongoing care, and the district now takes a hard line on sports injuries.
Our standard has been that we even have any reason to think that there's a head injury, we immediately pull those kids out and we're going to send them to be evaluated.
The American Academy of Neurology issues this palm card for coaches, listing possible warning signs of concussions, like delayed response, confusion, and slurred speech. It also tells how long a player should wait before returning to action. In most cases, at least a week. But a recent survey published in the American Journal of Sports Medicine found that almost a third of high school and college players who suffered a concussion still went back onto the field the same day.
It's very important that we follow them to make sure that they truly are better before they engage in additional activity. Should never be playing or participating if you're symptomatic, period.
The toughest audience to educate about concussions and second impact syndrome may be the athletes themselves.
Players, you know, should realize when something is wrong with them that's, you know, serious, and they should, you know, in their own minds, you know, draw the line, say, no, you're not going back out. And I know that is extremely hard to do.
But Brandon also knows how hard it is to live with a serious brain injury, and how the hopes and dreams of a young man with so much promise can be crushed in an instant.
I think about living my life more for the moment than for the future, because I realize now that the future may never come.